Hi, in this video I'm going to give you an overview of the Max ecosystem by showing the main operations of the top menu bar, how to create a patcher and how to display information to the Max console, a place where we can test the results of our algorithms. When we first open Max, the first thing we see is this top menu bar. And one of the first things you want to do is to create a new patcher. So, a patcher is a graphical environment for making real-time computer music, image, and video processing. Its main purpose is to control the instantiation and configuration of objects in the Max environment. So, basically, in this patcher, we can instantiate objects. What does it mean? An object is basically the unit block in the Max environment that has inputs and outputs called inlets and outlets. So generally, an object takes some information in the inlet, processes it in some way, and outputs a result. It can be thought as a mathematical function like y equal to f of x, where x is the incoming data, y is the output, and f of x is the algorithm inside the object. Since Max is not an open source project, we can see how an object operates internally, and we can only refer to its documentation, which is enough to understand its behavior. So when we call an object or we instantiate an object, we should go here to this icon called object or just press N. So we have this box with inlet and outlet, and we can type internally something, a word, a keyword basically, that refers to the object file. Let's say we want to call the object print, which print any message in the Max console. So first of all, we just finish to type the name of the object and we press enter. Now, if you go to the Max application, like here, if you are a Mac user, you can do show package contents and go to resources, C74, and externals, which contains like many objects in Max. And basically what it does, every time we call an object, basically it just Max try search for this object inside the application itself. So it just call one of these objects, one of these file with the extension MXO. And so yeah, in this way, we can print any incoming message that goes like to this inlet to the Max console, which is this window here. Now it's showing some warnings, which I'm not talking about right. So I'm gonna just clear all of them. And basically, the Max console is a place where we can, as I said before, test and the result of an output. So our output, in this case, is like what it comes to the inlet. It's just the print just sends any message that comes to the inlet to this window. So basically, what we can do is to instantiate another object called message box actually, and we can type something in it, for instance hello. So as you can see, these two objects are quite similar to each other, and most of the time beginners confuse them, and main difference is that usually objects have these two stripes, one on the top and one on the bottom, whereas the message box doesn't have it. So that will be a good trick for beginners to understand their difference, because you can type strings characters inside both of them. That's why people usually get confused. And what we do usually in the Max environment is to connect objects to patch cords, which are this kind of lines that connect objects together. So basically, now, let's say I finished my super simple algorithm, and I'm here in the Max console where the patch window is unlocked, which means that every time we do editings, we instantiate new objects, we like move them and do any kind of operation with them, we should always be in the unlocked patch. And when we want to perform something, like for example, we want to send this message to this print object, we should lock the patch. So I'm gonna click this icon here, and now I'm gonna click on this object message box here. What you're gonna expect, we are gonna see the message in the Max console over here. In fact, after I clicked, the print object is as received hello. That's good. So we, without going too much in depth about objects, because I'm gonna cover them late in the later videos. The first thing I want to be sure is that you understand the top menu bar, these icons of a patcher. So the file label, as we did before, can create a new patcher or new from clipboard or templates. I'm not gonna cover all the labels and features of the menu bar, but in this video I'm gonna cover just the main ones. So usually you want to go to this new patcher, and or you want to open a patcher store in your computer, or you download from the internet, or you want to close the patcher itself, or you want to save it. These are the main operations for, let's say, for beginners. And here you have show package manager, which is that window that contains external packages that I explained a bit in the previous video. So then you have this label edit, which contains operation related to patching. The patching is basically all the actions that we do in the Max environment, basically connecting objects through patch cords. So basically we can, let's say, select one object, copy it, paste it somewhere else in the patch, or find some object inside the patcher. So if I go here and I type, for instance, print, it says it found a match, and basically it selected the object. So we can, if we have like many objects inside a patch and we don't find a specific one, we can just type something inside here, and we can, go through all the objects inside the patcher. So after that, we have the view label that basically contains information and features to how basically visualize the patch. So we can do zoom in, zoom out, show, for instance, a grid, just to make the objects, to arrange the objects in a more symmetrical way. Or for instance, showing the toolbar, which I'm gonna cover like in a bit, which is like this collection of icons all around the patch code, the patch window, and And we can also, like for instance, select a patch code and say hide connections, for instance. So the patch code disappear, but actually the two objects are still linked together. Or we can also do the same, like do the show connection, and the patch code will appear again. Then we have a label called object, which basically contain main properties and features to control the object itself. Actually the selected object. You remember that like before I was just clicking here an object and any object was selected here. And most of the labels were, let's say, transparent. Or at least unclickable. And when I select, for instance, one object, they get highlighted, and for instance, I can change the fonts, I can change the color, I can hide, for instance, the object when I lock the patch. Like for instance, I can do hide on lock, and when I lock the patch, the object disappear, but it's still there. There are many features that maybe now, as a beginner, you don't really appreciate or understand. But as far as you follow this videos series, you're gonna understand it more. But I will say that generally, the inspector is the way to go when you want to check the properties of an object. Don't get scared about all of this information in this window, because they are quite easy, and most of the time the structure is quite similar. So in later videos we are going through each labels, or at least the main labels and features that you find in objects to modify them. And then we were here in objects. There are other options, but basically this contains all features about objects. And then the arrange label contains way to align and distribute objects inside a patcher. So let's consider we can, align these two objects like vertically or horizontally, or doing other edits. Options gives me general options in the Max environment, but in this course we are gonna be focused on the audio status, which contains feature about the audio engine. I'm not going to open it now because I'm going to cover theory of DSP in the later videos, so stay tuned. And debug is about features of debugging, so solving problems and testing the patch and the way of, all the objects communicate and perform in a patch. Extras contains external object, or patchers that are kind of useful, generally useful for programmers. And the second part contains all the externals and packages and examples. The help label, as you can imagine, contains all the reference documentation, and you can get a quick Max tour and get examples of Max. I wouldn't suggest to go here if you're really a beginner, because this is a kind of intermediate, advanced patcher, so it's better to maybe follow some of my videos and then go here to check them out, or just do it if you are just curious. But I'm kind of sure that you might get overwhelmed by checking these patchers now. So this that that was it. Instead of in terms of understanding the top menu bar. And another important thing to understand is these icons here in the toolbar. So here we have, and most of some features here are also included in the top menu bar. So sometimes in Macs you can do like the same thing through different ways. So if you want to zoom in and out, you can go here and select the percentage. Or if you want to create a new object, you go here. And these other icons allow you to call other different types of objects, including also Max for Live objects. I don't want to cover the other types of objects here because I will have a video dedicated to that called Max Data Types. But basically here on the top you just instantiate and call main object, the object that they are used most of the time when you patch. And here you can, let's say, format the object. So also this part, it contains some feature that you find also in the expector, for instance. This is a kind of shortcut. So you can decide to have, you know, the text centered on the left or on the right. You can make it bold, you know, italic, change the size and the font as well. Then we have on the left side this icon here, objects, that contains all the objects installed in Max, including also the externals. So, and probably if you didn't install any packages, maybe your object window here panel will be a bit different. Then here you have a collection of samples that you can use for to play with them. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna cover this in later videos. Then we have videos if you want to play with videos, and you just drag and drop them on the Max Max window. Sorry, to the patcher. And here, if you want to load images, and here there are snippets, which are basically collection of objects. So basically, if every time, let's suppose every time I create a new patch, I want to have always this block of objects connected together, instead of creating them and connect them every time, I can save it as a snippet by going here, give it a name, like print hello, print hello, and you have it saved in the snippets. So and it should be somewhere here. But the best way to call snippets actually is to, of course, I mean, go in here and search for hello. So if I drag and drop it here, I have already a block here that I can reuse, or I can do right click and do paste from user snippet, and there I can find all the snippets saved. Print hello. Cool. Then we have plugins, because in Max we can also load external VSTs and use it inside Max as we do in normal DAW. And here we can instantiate VZ modules for audio processing, and for video processing, and the beep it's for audio processing. Then we have the padlock that we already discussed before. And another important icon will be, I will say, this one, when we are gonna talk about audio processing. Most of the time you're gonna activate and deactivate the audio engine from here. Sorry if I'm not covering everything, but I don't want to overwhelm you, and I'm just showing you the object that you're gonna use most of the time as a beginner. For instance, if you want to do MIDI mapping, like if you have a MIDI controller, you want to control some objects, you can go here, click here, and map the object to your controller as you do in the Ableton Live environment. Or you can map your objects with your keyboard by clicking here and assigning the objects. And on the right side, we have the inspector that we already covered before a bit. Then we have a reference, which is a very useful window that shows you the attributes and messages of objects and the objects related to the selected object. And I'm gonna cover messages and attributes in the next video, so stay tuned. And then we have the Max console that is here, and we can also call it by going here, window, and do Max console if you want to have a separate window, which is what I would suggest you to get used. And then we have the global metering for the audio loudness that we are going to see in later videos. And yeah, that was it. I didn't cover the other icons on purpose, but you're going to discover them on the right time, where we are going to need them. That was it for this video, and see you soon.